My husband Harold used to do this thing where he'd come home from work, hang his coat on the same hook, third from the left, always, pour himself a glass of water, and sit in the chair by the window for exactly 4 minutes before he said a word to me. Not because he was angry, not because he was avoiding me. He just needed to land. That's what he called it, landing. And I let him. That might be the single most important thing I ever did in my marriage. Not the grand gestures, not the anniversary dinners or the letters I wrote him when he was away for work. I let the man land. I want to talk to you about marriage, not the wedding, the marriage, because I have watched, over the course of my life, dozens of people I love walk straight into something they do not understand, with someone they have not truly seen, and then act surprised when it falls apart. And I'm not saying that from some high horse. I'm saying it as a woman who got lucky, and who knows exactly how close I came to getting it wrong, too. So if you're engaged right now, or thinking about it, or in a relationship where you're wondering if this is the one, stay with me. I'm going to tell you things that no wedding magazine will print, and no bridal shower toast will include. And I'm going to be honest with you, because at my age, there's really no point in being anything else. Here's the first thing, and I need you to hear this clearly. You are not marrying the person you think you're marrying. You are marrying someone you have not met yet. The person who shows up at year 7 when the mortgage is late and the baby has colic and neither of you has slept more than 4 hours, that person does not exist yet. The person who gets the phone call about their mother's diagnosis and goes completely silent for 3 weeks, you haven't met them. The person who gets laid off and becomes someone you don't recognize for 6 months, a stranger is going to walk through your door, and you are going to have to decide whether you still choose them. Harold and I married in 1963. We had a small ceremony. My mother made my dress, which I thought was embarrassing at the time, and now consider one of the most precious things that ever happened to me. We moved into a little apartment on Birch Street that had radiators that clanked so loud you'd think someone was trapped inside the walls. And for the first 2 years, I thought I understood my husband completely. Quiet man, gentle, liked his routines, read before bed, easy. Then his brother Frank died in a car accident outside of Madison in January of 1966, and Harold became someone I had never seen. He didn't cry, not once, not in front of me. He stopped reading. He'd sit in that chair by the window, but his eyes weren't resting. They were just vacant. He started going on long drives alone. 3 hours, 4 hours. He wouldn't tell me where he went. I'd hear him up at 2, 3 in the morning, just standing in the kitchen in the dark. I was 28 years old. I had no framework for this. My parents' way of handling grief was to keep busy and not discuss it. So my first instinct was to fix it. I suggested he talk to Pastor Erickson. I left pamphlets on the counter, subtle as a sledgehammer, I'm sure. I asked him, probably daily, "Are you okay? Do you want to talk?" And every time he'd say, "I'm fine, Peg," in a voice that clearly meant he was not fine, but also meant, "Please stop asking." Here's what I want you to write down wherever you are right now. If you're about to marry someone, you need to ask yourself this: can I sit in a room with this person's pain and not try to fix it? Because that is what marriage will require of you. Not once, hundreds of times. Pain you didn't cause and can't solve. And your job is not to be their therapist or their savior. Your job is to still be there on the other side of it. I almost failed that test. About 6 weeks into Harold's grief, I gave him an ultimatum. I'm not proud of this. I said, and I remember the exact words because shame has a way of preserving things perfectly. I said, Harold, you need to either talk to me or talk to someone because I can't live like this. And the look on his face, it wasn't anger, it was something worse. It was the realization that even his wife needed him to grieve on her schedule. He went to bed without a word, and I sat at the kitchen table and I understood, maybe for the first time, that I had made his grief about me, about my discomfort, about my need to feel useful. If you are someone who needs to fix things, and a lot of good people are, marriage is going to test that instinct until it nearly breaks you. You'll have to learn the difference between supporting someone and managing them. I'm still learning it, honestly. Now let me tell you about the second thing nobody warns you about. Boredom. Holy God, the boredom. I can feel some of you tensing up right now. You're thinking, we're not going to be bored. We have so much in common. We never run out of things to talk about. And that's lovely. That's year 1. Maybe year 3 if you're fortunate. But there will come a stretch, and I'm not talking about a bad week. I'm talking about a season, maybe a year, where you will look at this person across the breakfast table and feel absolutely nothing. Not hatred, not love, just nothing. They'll be telling you about something that happened at work, and you'll nod, and you won't hear a single word because your mind is somewhere else entirely, possibly wondering what your life would look like if you'd made different choices. Harold and I hit that wall around 1978. The kids were 8 and 6. Karen had just started taking piano lessons. Thomas was in t-ball. We were busy in the way that parents of young children are busy, constantly in motion, never actually together. We'd become co-workers running a household, very efficient, very organized, very hollow. I remember one night, it was a Thursday, I think, because we'd had meatloaf, which was always Thursday. I looked at Harold across the table, and I thought, with total clarity, I have no idea what this man is thinking. Not tonight, not in general. I have no idea what goes on inside his head anymore. That thought scared me more than anything in our marriage, more than any argument, more than Frank's death and the distance it created. Because at least during a crisis you're paying attention. Boredom is what happens when you stop paying attention and don't even notice you've stopped. So here's what I want you to do. If you're in a relationship right now, not later, right now, I want you to think about the last time you asked your partner a question you didn't already know the answer to. Not "How was your day?" That's a reflex, not a question. I mean a real question, something that made you curious about them, the way you were curious when you first met. When was the last time you were genuinely surprised by something they said? If you can't remember, that's not a crisis, that's a signal. And signals are useful if you don't ignore them. Harold and I survived the boredom because of something accidental. In the spring of 1979, I started volunteering at the county library's literacy program on Tuesday evenings. It was my thing, nothing to do with Harold, nothing to do with the kids, just mine. And something shifted. I'd come home with stories. I was teaching a 60-year-old farmer named Dale Knutson how to read, and his determination was extraordinary. I'd tell Harold about Dale's progress, and my eyes would light up in a way they hadn't in years. And Harold started asking me questions about it, real questions. And then one night he told me he'd been thinking about taking a woodworking class at the community college. And I said, "You should." And he looked at me like I'd given him a gift. What saved us wasn't working on the marriage, it was working on ourselves and bringing something new back to the table. I see young couples now who do everything together. Same friends, same hobbies, same gym, and I want to gently shake them. You are going to run out of each other if you don't have a self to return to. The third thing, and this one is delicate, so I'll try to say it carefully. You need to marry someone whose loneliness looks like yours. I don't mean someone who's lonely. I mean that every person has a specific way they experience being alone. And if those ways are fundamentally incompatible, it will erode your marriage like water on limestone, slowly, invisibly, until the whole structure is compromised. I am a woman who recharges in silence, always have been. When I'm overwhelmed or depleted, I need a closed door, a cup of tea, and about 45 minutes where no one needs anything from me. That's not a flaw. That's my wiring. Harold was the same way. When we found each other, it was like discovering that the thing you'd always been apologizing for was actually something someone else could love. We could be in the same room for an entire evening without exchanging a word, and both of us would call that a good night. But I watched my friend Beverly, lovely woman, married to a man named Gene for 31 years. I watched that marriage disintegrate because Beverly needed to talk when she was upset, and